The president said he'd defer to private industry and noted many companies were stepping up to talk about how they could help during this crisis. But today, he used his authority under the DPA after losing patience with GM. Joining us to talk about the move, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo and Fox News contributor Joey Jones. Gentlemen, good to have you both with us on this Friday night.
Hi, Shannon.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Okay, I want to play a little bit of what the president had to say today about how we got to this place.
We will not hesitate to use the full authority of the federal government to combat this crisis. We thought that we had to deal with, as an example, General Motors, and I guess they thought otherwise. They didn't agree, and now they do.
All right, John, there we are. There are people who have said all along that the president is too authoritarian, and then when he wouldn't invoke DPA, he wasn't authoritarian enough. Now he's done it.
Well, the president's critics have been somewhat schizophrenic about him and presidential power. They tried to get him out of office for misusing a presidential power. Now they're claiming he's not using enough. But we should all understand this is not even the president using his own constitutional powers. You said it, Shannon, it's the Defense Production Act. It's a law passed by Congress. Congress has the power to regulate the economy, and they have given the president, during times of emergency and war, the authority to nationalize certain industries when the markets aren't working. Maybe GM here wasn't willing to bear the full cost of retooling for the ventilators, and so the president had to come in and say, I'm ordering you to. And industry can get compensated later for the government taking over its property and using it. But this is not an authoritarian move by any means. It's actually done according to constitutional standards where Congress had the power and handed it off to the president during a time like this, a time of crisis and emergency.
Mm-hmm. And there are those who are concerned about the government getting involved with private industry in the U.S. in any way, shape, or form. The Wall Street Journal had an opinion piece saying this: Democrats want the administration to take over much more of the private economy. America needs to emerge from this, though, with a private economy intact and ready to grow again, not nationalize industries subject to bureaucratic and political control. Joey, what's your take?
Well, there's a little bit of irony in the fact that it's GM of all companies that the president is the first to enact the threat of penalty, which I think is 1 year and $10,000 fine, 1 year in prison. And so what's funny about this is that GM has already been nationalized. It was effectively taken over by the Obama administration with the largest of the auto bailouts. I think they still cost the taxpayer about $10 billion or more than $10 billion when it was all said and done, even after they paid back what they could. And the point here is there's a culture involved in this. So we have small businesses all around the country taking the biggest risk. They stand to lose the most as far as their livelihood goes, and they also probably stand the least to gain from this $2 trillion bailout. They're not considered too big to fail toward the auto industry or airlines may be. But I think when you juxtapose those small businesses and all the effort they're putting into it, Dalton Distillery, the hometown distillery in my hometown in Georgia, immediately went to making hand sanitizer, giving it to people that are on the front lines and selling it for cost to people that aren't. And you look at GM, a company deemed too big to fail, and they can't make this deal happen to help the healthcare workers, regardless of the details of the deal. It sends the wrong message, and I would encourage people to go check out Ford Motor Company.
Well, yeah, listen, there are options out there. I got to tell you, though, all the things that have been activated, it's been amazing to see the Army Corps of Engineers and what they've been able to do very, very quickly and what they're expected to do in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, John, it's a real testament to our military and what they can get done under pressure.
I hope people aren't worried about seeing the military participating in this way. Of course, people are always going to worry the idea of the military operating within the United States, but they're not enforcing the law. They are doing what they do abroad. Often they're engaging in humanitarian assistance. Again, by congressional consent, Congress passed another law which allows, called the Stafford Act, and there are other acts which allow the president to call the military into effect, not to enforce a law, not to use force, but to back up the states and to surge personnel and resources where it's badly needed. One thing we got to remember is that under our federal system of government, it's really state governors and the states that have the resources to handle these kind of pandemics. And the federal government is really just there to support them with resources and personnel when needed.
All right, Joey, final quick word to you.
Yeah, I can only agree with what he had to say. It's kind of ironic, but also unique to see our military's coming in to support the front lines. It's civilians that are on the front lines. They're coming in to do some of the high risk and dirty jobs so that people can go to work every day in hospitals and places like that. I'm very proud of the National Guard, my brothers and sisters in arms, as well as those active duty that are called in. And I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of the civilians that I was honored to fight for.
I am too. And we thank you for your service. And John, thank you for being with us as well. Thank you both.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.